Mary of Magdala finds herself at the tomb of Jesus just before dawn. Before anybody else got there, she finds herself there. Now, according to Matthew, there was another Mary with her. And according to Mark, there were two other Marys with her. There are a lot of Marys going around in these parts. And according to Luke, there were several women with her, including the Marys and a woman named Joanna. But in the Gospel according to John, Mary is by herself. Mary was alone in the wee hours of the morning as she made her way to be where Jesus' body lay. Or so she thought. Why had she come to the tomb? Did she come to weep? Did she come to see what condition the body was in? In my tradition where I'm from, there is a tradition where after your loved one dies, you send them to the funeral home, and then the funeral home takes care of them, and the funeral home sends them to the church where the funeral is, and as people are viewing the body, people say, who did the body? Did Mary go to see who did the body? Did she go to see what it looked like? She had heard that there were two men that had taken Jesus' body, a man named Joseph of Arimathea and another man named Nicodemus. They pleaded with Pilate to give them Jesus' body so that they could take care of it. The text says they had wrapped the body in linens and adorned it with spices and herbs, as was the tradition. Did Mary go to the tomb because she had to see it for herself? She wanted to see if they did what it was supposed to be done. Maybe Mary went to the tomb so that the reality of his death could set in. Did she go to see the tombstone? Where I'm from, we don't have graves. We're below sea level, but we have mausoleums and tombs, and you go to see the tombstone once the names have been engraved in there. Did she go to see the engravement on the tomb? For whatever reason, she goes to go see the body. Mary gets there to realize that the tomb is empty. I imagine she is startled. And so she runs and she gets some of the guys to say, come and see if what I am seeing is correct. She goes and she finds Simon Peter and another unnamed disciple, and they all run and race each other to the tomb to see if Mary is saying what is really happening. I somehow imagine that Simon Peter and the other male disciple wanted to go and verify Mary because they didn't believe her. They had to go double check her. Does she know what she is talking about? And they get to the tomb and they see that the linens have been left there and the cloth they had wrapped Jesus in had been left there. And then the interesting thing is they leave her there. They leave her at the tomb by herself to weep for their friend. They run away and they hide and they leave Mary of Magdala there. She is weeping alone at the tomb, and she looks inside just to see for herself, perhaps to make sure she wasn't losing her mind. She's gone from who did the body to where is the body. It's a traumatic experience, and as she peeks her head back into the tomb, the text says that two angels in white appear seated where Jesus' body was to lay. And the angel said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" Mary cries out to them, "They have taken the body of my Lord, and I don't know where they put it." I can imagine there are several thoughts going in her mind at this moment. Had someone stolen the body? Did they do it to further torture Jesus' followers? Had they not done enough by already crucifying him? And as she turns away from the tomb is over here, she turns away from the tomb and faces the other direction. She sees a man she does not recognize. She does not know that this man is Jesus. She just sees a figure, and I imagine she is hopeful that this man that she does not recognize can tell her what the angels couldn't. Where is Jesus' body? And this man that she does not recognize says to her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who are you looking for? Why are you weeping?" Now, this might seem like a normal question to most of you, but if we recall, this is not the first time that Jesus asks the women why they are weeping. In the 23rd chapter of Luke, as he is heading to be crucified on the cross, there are the daughters of Jerusalem, he calls them, and they are all crying and they are banging their chests, and he tells them, "Stop crying for me. Cry for yourselves. Why are you weeping for me? Weep for yourselves." Perhaps Jesus thought that by asking Mary right here why she was weeping, that she might recognize him. For she was most certainly among the women that he was talking to that day when he was crucified, but she does not recognize him. Thinking that he is the gardener, she gives a spiel about how she's been looking for her Jesus. Even though she's talking to Jesus, she does not recognize him. She is talking to the one that she is looking for. She is talking to the one who she watched breathe his last breath on the cross. Mary does not recognize Jesus. Maybe she doesn't recognize Jesus because Mary's grief had clouded her perception. Maybe her tears were blurring her vision. We don't know how much Jesus' appearance had changed. He clearly did not look like his pre-crucifixion self. But what we do know is that this is not the only story in the Gospels where people do not recognize the post-resurrected Jesus. If you know, in the Gospel of Luke, he appears on the road to Emmaus and he sees two of his disciples and he has a whole conversation with them and they do not recognize him. They only recognize him once he breaks the bread at the table and they remember the act of communion that they are able to say, "My Lord, it is you." This is odd. What has been resurrected is unfamiliar at first glance. Jesus does not look the same because he is not the same. And I have to pause here because I just want to make it clear that resurrection is not resuscitation. Right. Jesus had brought many people back to life. He had breathed life into many people. Jairus' daughter got up and Lazarus got up and the widow with the son got up. They were not resurrected so much as they were resuscitated, because when they returned to life, they returned looking like themselves and acting like themselves, and their family and their friends knew who they were, but Jesus was unrecognizable. These individuals had appeared to return to their former selves, but Jesus was so extremely different that it catches Mary off guard. And I thought to myself about the unfamiliarity of the resurrection and how when God does new things in the world, they won't be an exact replica of what was. Often, what we're looking for from God won't be in the package that we thought it would come in. When God transforms, it is not merely a revival or a resuscitation. The new thing being birthed into the world out of chaos is unique. It looks unique and it feels unique and it tastes unique. But the challenge is, some of us have spent years of our lives staring at the tombs of our past, the sweeter days of that dead relationship, the wonder years of that career path that you had, the glory days of church, years looking back at tombs, looking back at dead faces. Some of us in here have even spent 3 years in a pandemic trying to go back to something, go back to normal. And God is saying, I am resurrecting something new. I am giving you a new normal, but we can't see it. does not look backwards. Mary had turned away from the tomb when she sees Jesus, even though she does not recognize him as Jesus, because she mistakes him for the gardener, maybe even the grave site custodian, when she accuses him of moving Jesus' body. But there is a moment Jesus has to pivot when he realizes that Mary does not know who he is. He says to her, Mary. And that's it. He calls her name. I don't know the extent of their relationship. There are some people that feel like she was a friend. Others feel like she might have been more than Jesus' friend. But all Jesus had to say was, Mary. And she recognizes in this moment that it is the risen Jesus. And I can imagine that she is excited. And the text says that she's going toward Jesus with excitement as she calls his name Rabbi, Rabbuni, which means teacher. And I imagine that she reaches out to hug him because she is so excited, and Jesus stops her. Jesus says, don't hold me. I won't be here with you long. I am going to be with my Father. Don't hold me. I don't know how many of you all have had dreams about deceased loved ones. I have several about my grandmother who died when I was 10 months. Her name was Myrtle. And she appears in my dream every decade or so. And just when I get to the moment of going to hug her, going to make contact with her, the dream ends. Have you ever been there? You get to the good part of the dream. Oh, I'm so excited to be reunited with this loved one. And as soon as you get there to reach out to your hands and touch, you wake up. Jesus says, wake up. Don't hold me. I am going to do the work of my Father in heaven. But he says something else to her. He says, can you do something for me, Mary? Can you tell the others that I love them? Can you tell them that I will always be with them, even if I'm not with them in the flesh? I imagine that he is telling Mary, his chief disciple. Some scholars call her the apostle to the apostles because she is named by name in the Gospels more than any of the other men. I can imagine Jesus saying to her, I know these men are up there in that upper room scared and cowering away. Mary, I need you to go tell them. I need you to go tell them that I am risen. Go tell those men who left you here to go hide that disruption is not destruction. They tried to destroy me and destroy the movement, but all they did was disrupt it. And I need you, Mary. I need you to tell the men who are hiding to continue the resurrection work. And Mary rises up, and the text says she went out and she spread the good news. I believe, friends, today what Jesus was trying to convey in this moment was that resurrection is a communal experience. I was reading a great scholar and thinker and former Catholic priest. His name is John Dominic Crossan. And Crossan talks about how the Eastern Church split off from the Western Church many centuries ago. But in the Eastern Orthodox tradition of the church, all of their images of Jesus and the resurrection have other people beside him. In the Western church, the church that many of us have come up in, the resurrection is a singular experience. It's only Jesus by himself. But in the Eastern tradition, Jesus has people around him. He is not just focused on himself and raising up himself. He is focused on raising up a generation of people who will carry on the tradition of resurrection. Mary, go get them up out of that room, Mary, and tell them that the work must continue. Friends, my only message for you today that I hope you leave with is not so much worshiping and honoring Jesus today. Yes, let us do that. But I hope you leave here today knowing and believing people. We are people who don't look back. We look forward. We are people who don't cower when things get scary. We are meant to rise up. We anticipate the newness of God bursting forth in the world. We are resurrection people, but what is resurrected might have a new appearance, and are we ready for that? Are we ready for what we are praying for to not look like what we thought it would look? We are resurrection people. And if you had any doubts, there are a generation of young folk in Tennessee who are ready. There are a generation of young leaders and politicians, Justin Pearson and the other Justin, brother Justin, who are ready, who know that even though they have been expelled from the House of Representatives, that the resurrection work is not finished, and that we are called to rise up. The musical Hamilton says, rise up. They're not throwing away their shot. They are ready to take it in a new direction, and it might not look like what you thought it would look like. It might not look like them being representatives. It might look different. It might look like grassroots work. It might look like organizing, but what they have let us know is that they are ready for the unfamiliarity of the resurrection. They are ready for the unrecognizable. They are ready for the new thing that God is doing in this world. Jesus is saying to Mary, as she is weeping at his dead space, that there is a new alive space that is waiting for you. Woman, get up. People, rise up. Become the resurrection that you want to see in this world. Will you be ready? The late scholar and chaplain at Harvard Divinity said that, Peter Gomes said that the resurrection is God's way of getting our attention. But he also says that life begins when God gets our attention. Sometimes God has to bowl an unfamiliar thing in our direction to get our attention. We've been so used to the status quo, and what Jesus does when he is resurrected is that he disrupts the status quo. He says there is a new thing waiting for us. And will we be ready to step into our identities as resurrection people, transforming the conditions of our living together? Will we be ready to become the resurrection we want to see in the world? Lincoln, as you play, I want to remind us that it is okay to cry. It is okay to weep. It is okay to lament. Don't mistake the song and the text for a lack of permission to grieve. That is a part of the process. But in the midst of the grief and after the grief, we have to be ready to rise up and continue the work that has been left behind for us. When Jesus was on the cross, he declared, it is finished for him, but it's not finished for you. It's not finished for me. It's not finished for us. Let us claim our identities as people who become the resurrection that we want to see. Let us pray. God, we thank you. We thank you that your Son is not only a reminder of your power and your miraculous work in the world, but your Son's resurrection provides a charge for us to step into the newness that you have for us, to turn away from the dead spaces, from the tombs of our past, and to walk into the resurrection of our future. God, thank you for reminding us of the power that you have working in us. Be with us as we take on our new identity. At this time, we allow space for reflection and meditation. And anybody who might want to come up for prayer or to become a part of this community, you are welcome to do so now, and just come on up and you can sit on the first row. Or you can wait till later and find us after church. I know that can be intimidating. Take this time to reflect.
Sound pretty.